Hi, this is Sarah from sarahYip.com, Facebook, The Numbers Queen, and Instagram, SarahYip1111, here for my weekly aloha. You might hear some friendly little voices in the background because we do have our kids at home. Thanks everyone who will be watching this live and also those who will be watching the replay. Hugely appreciate your support and energy. I'm sure you are feeling the powerful, almost tsunami-like flow of opportunity that's coming our way. Now, some people will be feeling it as overwhelm, other people as excitement, other people as just confusion. Sort of depends on where you were at before we entered this, as they call it, the silly season. So just to recap, we're ending a 4 universal year of heart chakra healing, which was about ultimate self-compassion and making sure that our life is based on love and not fear and uncertainty and obligation. We are in a universal 7 months, which is about leaps of faith, crown chakra opening. I'm getting a lot of 7s come in actually, which is no surprise. 7 life paths are pretty good at things like numerology and spirituality. They know it's an X factor, and many of them are in positions of authority, so they like to have the inside goss. So that 7 energy is very much about miracles, and there's certainly been a lot of those around, not always recognizable as such. So the main themes I've been noticing this week, actually death. So it was probably just in the past 7 days I noticed everyone I talked to had someone pass away, a dog pass away, something happened to an idea, it just wasn't time for that idea to be born. You could put that down to the eclipses we're experiencing and the new moon that we just had. It's true that eclipses raise the vibration and so allow people to make, I suppose, a different kind of exit, perhaps even arriving into their next lifetime with a bit of a head start. But certainly eclipses bring everything to a sudden climax or revelation point, and that's been tricky. I found it tricky. I had somebody I did a numerology for just a couple of months ago, had dinner with her, a holistic doctor. She passed away very suddenly, and that threw me. That really threw me, actually. I've been really getting into doctors, medicine, science, surgeons through some shows I'm watching on Netflix, because that's very much one of the themes I'll be discussing in my 2021 Numerology Forecast. I'm sure you've noticed that doctors are these kind of new rock stars that are emerging. So, like I said, it was a real shock to hear she'd gone, and I'm fairly sure from memory she was a 5. In fact, a lot of doctors have a 5 energy. 5 sits in the center of the numerology grid. They're very much people who can connect with anyone, jacks of all trades, very gifted at reading situations and looking both backwards and forwards, incredible centers of objectivity. And my own dad's actually a 5, so having him as a dad was pretty spun out. And when I look back, he was talking to me about my life path even when I was little. So he always used to play this game at dinner where he would lay out toothpicks, and he would always say 1 + 1 = window. So he'd put the 1, the plus, and the equals, and it would look a bit like a 4-paned window. Now that I reflect on that, that was probably a reminder to me at a deep level that I'd come here to do this 1111 work, and also that when you fully explore your relationship with another person outside yourself, you can truly experience divinity. It can teach you everything you need to know about being on earth and making the most of it. Just one person can completely transform everything. So that death theme, it's not unsurprising, because the heart is actually where the ego dies and the soul is essentially reborn. And a lot of us have had to let go of the plans we had for this year. And obviously, I know some of you will be joining me for the forecast, hoping that they will come to fruition next year. What I can say is that 5-year, everything does become possible again. But we just need to be coming from a very different place. The fifth chakra is the bridge between the heart and the head. The 5 energy is very much about equality, and that goes really well with the Aquarian astrology that's flooding in. I believe it's Jupiter and Saturn coming into Aquarius, that 11th energy, perfectly segueing with the work I do in numerology. So people really looking at things from the big picture level, looking many generations ahead. I see only good in that. So if you have been affected by this death energy, my condolences to you. Be very gentle on yourself. We live in a society that very often doesn't know how to deal with themes like this. And you even see things like, you post it on Facebook and people can be quite glib. So I really urge you to think more like someone who is from ancient times, where you do take some time off, real true time off to switch off, because I believe every time we come across this theme of death, there's a part of us that remembers that we are also on a bit of a schedule as a soul. So it can be a good time to have healings and meditation. I'm personally getting quite a few this week. Just had one from my crystal healer Dennis, and I'll have another one from my mentor Caroline soon. So that's one theme. Obviously, well, if you're in Queensland, there's been a heck of a lot of rain. And I wrote about this on social media. Rain has the same vibration as the word truth. And it's interesting. You see people, they're so afraid of getting wet. Just a couple of drops and they act like it's the end of the world. Whereas perhaps people from more moody climates, they're pretty used to it. They just keep going. And the truth can be like rain. When it first starts to hit you, it can send you into a bit of a tailspin, a bit of a shock place. But if you can just allow it to seep in, there's so much healing power in it. And, just that power of water, our bodies being such a heavy percentage of water, we're basically walking water bodies. So much good can come of being bathed in the truth. That's definitely what I aim for when I'm doing my readings or teachings, forecasts like this. Give you an experience of being in the spa of truth, one could say. So other themes I've had coming up this week, a very big one is cults, C-U-L-T-S. So I've been researching a lot of famous personalities. I've just really noticed this type of thinking has been getting stronger on the planet once again. So it's certainly very prevalent during the witch hunts and other times when a lot of the magical people, unfortunately, were disappeared, shall we say. And I think there's an element of that happening again, and we need to be really aware of that. So with cults, the way I got into that is I was listening to a bunch of people in the personal growth movement, and I noticed how often they misquote things. So, for example, a lot of quotes they attribute to Einstein or Gandhi, and they're not. And often they're from actually women or obscure poets. And it made me think of things like food. When you buy food and you find out, it says it's Australian made, but it's not, and you feel really ripped off. These things seem so small, and yet I think it builds up. So when I now follow people who use a lot of quotes, I'm fact checking them, because I don't really want to build a house along their model and then find out in a couple of years that the material they used was energetically unstable. So I guess I've been changing my focus in terms of who I recommend and who I follow. And I'm looking more for people where there's been a background of solid effort. Because I've written this on my blog many times, people don't change much. And, I often get asked things like, when will I win the lotto? And that lotto thinking, it's very much alive in the spiritual industry. You read about these people who suddenly became psychic or suddenly developed healing powers or a knowledge of God, and that's cool. I totally believe that's possible and legit. But I just feel like if you have those experiences and then you don't do some research or get some mentors or get some grounding in it, it can turn into a cult. It can become very dangerous. Because there's a big difference between psychic powers, the ability to read others, intuition, the ability to read yourself, and spiritual maturity, which is knowing what to do with all of that skill and possibility. You have plenty of people walking around who are very psychic, which can even come through trauma or learning, but they haven't had the community or the feedback to develop spiritual maturity. And I know this because it happened to me. When I started to do palm readings and numerology, I realized how much fear there is in the population. And once you start talking of those things, some people look at you like, I don't know, you're the world's best kept secret, and it can just really go to your head. It can really go to your head. And so I quickly enrolled myself in holistic counseling, and I rang around the industry and I found some mentors. And perhaps I did that because I'm from a government background and a science background. And I just know as a human, we are so prone to exaggeration and getting too precious. So this is something I want to bring to you today in this short tune-in, is you're likely to be looking for new sources of information and inspiration in the next year. You know, maybe some of your other ones you've become disillusioned with. So to avoid making the same mistake, really look into their background and really study their followers. For example, even just look at their feedback on their pages. Is it a lot of people who just want quick answers, or is it people who legitimately think for themselves? Because you can absolutely tell a leader by the types of followers they have. A couple more points. So I released my second comedy gig online. Thanks everyone for the feedback. That was pretty monumental for me. I was shaking most of the time. And being heavily pregnant, I wasn't even sure I could memorize the script in a couple of days, but I believe I pulled it off. You can have a look. And you know what I've noticed is I've been taking some pretty big risks lately. So I'm in a personal 5-year. So in a way, I have a preview of what a lot of people are going into next year. And what I noticed is the more I stretch myself and I live in that place of discomfort, the cooler people are coming into my life. So for example, I'm getting a lot of clients who previously I would have been very intimidated by. Founders of companies, founder of wellness movements, head coaches, people who've started financial planning businesses. And I just couldn't have read for them before because I felt too insecure. So again, something I want to leave you with is do the thing you fear the most, not just because you don't want to die not knowing, but because you absolutely change the frequency of the world around you. And it is so amazing. It is so amazing. Once you get the hang of it, you will not doubt yourself so much. Because when you move into that level where everyone is okay with you being uncomfortable and growing, it's like a positive reinforcement, because the more you work with that type of person and energy, the higher you go, the wider you go, the more adventurous you become. It's a very positive cycle. So I really encourage you to do the thing you fear the most. We're talking a lot about public speaking and that fear of losing your head in my forecast. So that's what I've been noticing. So look, you're very welcome to write some questions down in the chat. So it's not often that I do those Q&As. I do them once a week at the moment, but once I have the baby, probably simplify a bit. And some of you might know my wait list is about 6 months. So if you've got a question, throw it in there. Just to be really clear with you, this is not about free readings. If you followed my work for any length of time, you'll know that would be like performing brain surgery in the middle of the street. Like, I don't do things by halves. So unless you've got 7 hours, Probably not great for either of us. But just short questions, any spiritual topics you're wondering about, energy questions, general numerology questions, anything where it could relate to other people, you're welcome to post. So let me just have a look now. And just before I answer those, I'll also be talking about the themes that will be coming up for all of us this week, especially to the people tuning in. Okay, so I've got a few good questions there. So before I go to them, I want to introduce you to a different deck of cards. Now, a lot of you know I've been using the tarot. I just feel like I might want to switch that up. So this deck was developed by one of my mentors, Ian White. He is the founder of the Australian Bushflower Essences. He is right into numerology. This is the deck. He is a lifepath 4, certainly been a big year for the 4s this year. So I've got 3 cards, which I think you'll find very relevant if you're watching this, and I'm laughing because there's 40 people on the call. So I love synchronicity. So here's the first card for tonight. It's called Crowea. And just by looking at this card, actually, you're getting a type of healing. Because this is vibration at work. Now, 10 years ago, I would have just laughed at you in the face if you told me I'd be doing this. But I am very convinced now this stuff works because I have multiple diaries, photos, and videos of all the results. I've been documenting all of my journey. So this beautiful Crowea flower, it's got the 5 petals. It's right on point with what we've been talking about. It's very much about healing that 5th energy within us, which is space or ether or sound and frequency. And this card is suggesting that a lot of people on the call have not been feeling quite right, that they've been feeling very worried, and that they're craving a sense of balance again. So look, whether you use this card as a distance healing, you take the essence, or you use your own techniques that you know will help you with that throat chakra, I really encourage you to do that right now. Get yourself ready. We've got the most enormous doorway opening in 5 days. There's that number again. 2112. I'm sure a lot of you have been looking at this. Massive in astrology, numerology, all the different ancient calendars. Rainbow bridge forming. And I guess the quickest way to sum it up is a lot of things you never thought were possible will now become possible after that day. So exciting times. Next card, relevant to everyone on the call, Black-Eyed Susan. Now, Black-Eyed Susan is actually Ian's card, his personality card. This card is for people who can't slow down. As soon as they wake up in the morning, got a million things to do. So basically everyone from capital cities like Sydney, like me and Ian. And this flower urges us to slow down, have patience, and to value peace. If you find yourself very impatient, I've got a lot of clients with that at the moment, play with the words. Turn impatience into I'm patience. You'd be amazed how it breaks the spell that you've placed on yourself that you don't have enough time. So the next card, which really does bring together a lot of the themes for 2020, which I predicted back in January. The red helmet orchid, it's a very unusual flower, isn't it? It's very unusual, it can create a very strong reaction. You might find you're actually having a bit of a moment right now. And that's because this card is about clearing father issues. And boy, do I see a lot of those. Oh my goodness. If you are someone who can't stand police or laws, parking fines, you don't like principles, you don't like banks. I mean, this is pretty broad, but I know a lot of people in that category. This is inviting you to not buy into that debilitating concept. Because you see, if they trigger you that bad, you're hemorrhaging power to them. So this is why I've been writing on my blog about this Buddhist idea of non-attachment, or killing the Buddha that you meet on the road. It's not my quote. You can read about it. It was a Zen master's quote. Because when you look at someone as more powerful than you basically buy into an illusion that can control the rest of your life. Be careful. Be careful. You weren't born like that. It's a very sexy illusion to think that somebody else could know you better than yourself. But all I can say is that you started, and I've said this before in my calls, you started as a couple of little cells. And through your own determination to make a difference on this planet, you turned yourself into a body, time and time again, consciously, unconsciously. You have literally built a whole civilization of microbes and organisms and, nutrition here, which is what's watching me, which is what I'm feeling coming through the screen. You are so incredibly powerful. You've created a universe from specks. So when you look at someone and say, they know me better than I know myself, be careful. It's a very dark place to go. Yeah, that ties into what I said about the cults. Look, I personally really like structure and I love authority. You'll often find that with people who are close to their fathers, and if not their fathers, with male figures or teachers. We often hear of God talked of as Father God, so perhaps that is the reason in my work I help people to work on that concept of God or good and the universe as a structure that we can understand and respect. But all I'm saying is, if this card triggers you, if that picture triggers you, it might be worth finding some really loving and affectionate father figures in your life. Maybe it's a big tree. Maybe it's a historical figure. Maybe it could be someone else's dad or grandfather. You can borrow them. Yeah, you can borrow them. You're allowed to create your own family now. You're an adult. So I hope that made some difference to you. Let's look at the questions and wind up. Thank you everyone who said hello. Okay, someone's asked their life path, just a sec. Yes, the person who asked, you are certainly a number 8. In fact, I'm getting a lot of the 35 8s at the moment. 35 is the vibration of the word creator or reactor. They have a very volcanic energy. I actually quite enjoy working with them. They're very bold. I've got someone who has asked why they can't remember what happened at their life path turning point. So just to explain, you can go on my website, sarahayip.com, to find your life path. There is a treasure trove of information there compiled from thousands of people's stories told to me. So this person's date of birth, added left to right, adds to 29, just like me. And she can't remember what happened. So the way to do it is you go into your heart, you wait for a heartbeat, and you actually ask your heart as if it was another person, dear heart, what happened to me at 29? So this is something you would need to do yourself, probably not on this call. I do it in almost all my classes and many of my readings. What you can do is you can trick your mind. You could actually just say, what was I doing in my late 20s or my early 30s? And then you can piece it together. You could go through diaries. You could ask family. You could go through emails. Don't worry, now that you're looking, it will come to you. And it could have just been a moment in time. Because when I look back at 29, it was literally just getting a book in a bookstore. The Life You're Born to Live by Dan Millman. Someone gave it to me when I was 29. Life-changing. And also I found out about a lineage in my family of, psychiatric and psychic issues. That was massive. But please just have a look at it and, like I said, trick your mind. Think about it more like late 20s. Yes, some people do block those things out, but that's all the more reason to actually feel into it, because often there's a big release that can come next. So you can do it. You were there. Your heart was there. It knows. Okay, last couple of questions. I've got a very interesting metaphor. Someone says they feel like a stone in a river and everybody else is a boat traveling along. How do I join the flow? Well, calls like this will certainly help, because I'm working with your guides, my guides, and you'll feel the energy just stirring around. So getting yourself into places where people care about you, that's always helpful. I've done a lot of visualizations this week about people who feel like they're boulders and there's no water. So things like images like beached whales. How do you join the flow? There's a few really classic techniques. Music. Use music, sound healing, toning, playing music. It's a very beautiful way to get into the flow, because flow is all about feeling. massage, body work, Reiki, anything that's touchy and feely. Actually jumping into water is a wonderful technique. You could give yourself the ice bucket challenge, certainly make you feel alive again. But just multiple things. The main thing is at least you're looking now, and it sounds like you're just on the cusp of finding your flow again. Relaxation really would be the word I would say to you, because we tighten and we tense, we solidify our fears. So whatever relaxes you, go for it. A couple more questions. Yeah, so I get this one a lot. People are like, how do you protect yourself from outside negative emotions, not let them get to you so easily? Really valid question. I've actually got a webinar on this. It's called Develop Your Intuition and Banish Self-Doubt. It's on my website under sarahayip.com classes. I think it's about $66. It's got about 4 or 5 meditations and really goes into detail of how to do this. The best way to protect yourself from negative emotions is to have good spiritual immunity. Here's the thing, you live on planet Earth and there's going to be mixed vibrations as long as you're here. And I meet people and they're like, man, I can't wait to go home. People are so dirty. And I'm like, gosh, you're really missing the point, aren't you? You chose to come here to clean it up. You know, don't ditch your mission. You'll just go back and feel really disappointed with yourself at a soul level. So developing spiritual immunity, it's not just one thing. It's a daily choice. Like daily you choose what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're reading, who you're around, what you talk about. And it's literally just like moment by moment, choosing something that you want from this place rather than something that you don't want. So it's very much like a way of living. The best way to learn it is in a class, a community. I've got my Patreon community, for example, and literally just to study people who have good spiritual immunity. They don't fall into cult thinking. They aren't judgmental. They don't harbor a lot of prejudice anymore. So just understand there's only so much you can do on yourself, and then at some point you will need that community around you to keep you safe and well. Okay, last couple of things. Someone asked about the card pack, flower insight cards, Australian bushflower essences. A couple of things. Someone's asking about their life path again. Hang on. 3, 5, 13, 14, 23. Yep, so the person who's reduced it to 5, you're a 32/5, so 32 is a pivotal turning point. Please understand there are multiple ways of calculating a life path. I like my system the most, as you'd expect me to say. It doesn't lose information. Because you can have a car, or you could have a certain make and model and color of car which has been driven by so-and-so. So to me, when you reduce life paths down, that's cool for fun and hobby. You'll get a certain amount of traction from that, no problems with me. But if you want to do accurate predictions, and if you read my website, I love forecasting and predictions because my background is like financial forecasting. You're going to need to keep all the detail, yeah? Don't throw out all the good stuff. So you add it left to right to maintain all the numbers. I've tested it with like 4,000 people. If you don't believe me, like I said, just try it for yourself. But I think at some point, if you're studying numerology, it's okay to try different systems, but this is the one that preserves the most turning points. And so if you're really wanting to help at the deepest possible level, at least consider it, please. Thanks. And the chakra link is also on my site. It is weird to me that so many numerologists talk about the numbers, but they don't mention the chakras. Because to me, it's like the most obvious link, and it means that people learn the system within about an hour. Because otherwise, you're just rote learning, oh, ones are independent, ones are pioneers. I'm like, ones are healing their root chakra and learning to stand up for themselves and kick butt. You know? Why can't we make this easy for people? Why do we have to divorce? Why do we have to dehydrate the magic? Anyway, off my high horse. A couple more questions. People have asked if I've got any more interviews coming. Yes, I surely do. Last couple of questions. Crystals, yes, so I've got the webinar coming up on the 3rd of Jan. I'll be opening bookings in the next day or two. Don't miss out, it'll be awesome. And then we'll have the crystals webinar on the 16th with Dennis. Again, I think you'll really enjoy it. All the webinars are super affordable. I know my readings are premium, and that's because I have children, and as some of you know, I've had a lot of health issues, so I really need to look after myself. And I very much see my role as creating an industry. So what I've noticed, some of you might have heard of this, it's called the Starbucks effect. I'm not saying I'm into coffee or Starbucks, but it's a metaphor. So basically, when they came into the market, everyone charged like $2 or $3 for a coffee. You know, that was the expectation. They came in and they offered all these like nuances, and all of a sudden you could pay $7, $8 for a coffee, and people thought it was outrageous. So when I came into the psychic industry, I was totally charging $10, $15, and I was getting sick. Because if you've ever met me, I'm like all in. I'm an 11, you know, I'm an 11 out of 10. So I had to just quickly, and I had a lot of good mentors with this, right? But I had to just quickly go up and up and up and up and up until I was happy that I was providing a service, but also I wasn't getting sick anymore. Because that's not cool, right? Who wants to pass on that kind of energy and like obligation? That's like strings attached. And in fundraising, I learned a long time ago that people are flattered to be asked. Even if they say, no, I can't afford you, in some ways they're flattered and they're like, hey, at least I know you exist. And, you know, in an industry that is highly unregulated, so anyone can call themselves a psychic, which is terrifying when you really think about it, yeah? Price is a good indicator of experience and confidence, but don't just go on price. Like I said, you know, look at testimonials, look at the clients, and look at the literature. This is exactly why I have a website, because I know when people see my price, some of them have a mini heart attack. But as someone who does enormous amount of prep, who tunes in for days or weeks, this is totally different to your normal reading. I probably need a different word for it. So anyway, that's that stuff. Okay, last couple of questions. All right, a few more people have asked about their life paths. Let me have a quick look. Yep, so I've got a couple of 24 sixes. So obviously you'd be wanting to look at what happened around that 24 age and as a child 6. You're doing a lot of healing of the third eye. So again, calls like this are fantastic. And with the third eye healing, often there's been some wounding where you no longer believe that there's more to you than your body or what you earn or, you know, just the material things. And you're learning, to like literally redevelop your sixth sense and your insights. So again, check out my intuition webinar for that. Look, I've got to wind up. We've gone over 30 minutes. I just want to say I'm super duper grateful for all your attention and energy. I will be back just before Christmas, so in 1 week's time. I hope you found this call, like I said, a bit of a spa of truth with some wonderful bubbles of healing. Just know that it's not just me. I'm not here to be a cult leader. I can tell you that for sure. I'm just here to facilitate. So think of me as your friendly spiritual switchboard operator. I used to work at Telstra, which is the phone company, and so did my mum. And I think it runs in the DNA. We just like to connect people together. So when you watch this call, it just gives you a chance to connect to your truth and yourself and to everyone else on this call. And we create this beautiful, bright constellation of lights whenever we do these chats. I just want to say a very big thank you to my Patreon community. They have inspired me to do these calls and a lot of the other big improvements in my business this year, like updating the LifePath pages, writing a book, which is still in progress. If you would like to join us, it's still only $5 a month to join for the next couple of months. Then it'll go up to $11. We have regular Q&As. You get lots of behind the scenes goodies. There's discounts. You get first pick of my reading spots and classes. And the main thing is you have somewhere you can post all your crazy 11/11 photos, which is awesome because I can tell you there's not many places left, sadly. There were a lot of 11/11 groups out there, but for whatever reasons, there was a lot of burnout. And that's why I've kept it, a small but really loving community, because I want it to last well into the future, because this is what I love to do the most. So thanks everyone for your support. I hope to see some of you in the Patreon and on my webinar. And please share this video if it resonated with you, and I'll see you in a week. This is Sarah from sarahYip.com, Facebook, The Numbers Queen, and Instagram, SarahYip1111, signing off with my traditional double peace signs. Take care, everyone. Bye.